are joined today by Irungu Nyakera. He is the current Deputy Party Leader of the Democratic Party, and he's also the Chairman of the Political Parties Association Liaison Committee. Karibu sana, Mr. Nyakera.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to be with you today and looking forward to the engagement.
Your journey is so interesting because a lot of people assume that there's this PS who was 33, he just popped out of nowhere. But if you follow, how it all began, or rather when you came into the limelight, maybe you can tell us from Stanford University. That's where you graduated from? Yeah?
Yes.
Stanford University in
California.
Yes. And you graduated with a master's in finance?
In industrial engineering. Technically with a focus on finance and decision engineering.
Yeah, decision engineering. That is what I was.
Yes.
Guys, did you even know that there's a master's in decision engineering? It's a thing. And right after that, you went directly into the workforce.
Yes.
You started working for Citi Bank.
Citi Group.
Yeah.
Yes, on the investment banking side. Started off at Wall Street and you immediately moved to London in Canary Wharf, still with Citi Group, and with a key focus on emerging markets. And that's really when I got to do and learn a lot on Africa, because I was in charge of working on Africa coverage, Sub-Saharan Africa. And really from there, what we are looking at is how do we help companies raise money? How do we help governments raise money? How do we help companies consolidate and kind of expand and grow? So that was what I was doing for a good 2 years from London before now the global economic crisis of 2008. And at which point then, after the crisis, I decided to, instead of looking for a job in London, I decided to move back to Kenya. And immediately I came in and joined NIC group within, still on the investment banking side. And that's where I grew from.
So your drive to come back to Kenya was that you wanted to learn, you wanted to explore your educational background within our markets.
I was always very keen on moving back to Kenya. So I knew I'll be settling back in Kenya. So when that opportunity presented itself, where I felt I don't want to look for a job in London, and I had already been offered opportunities in Nairobi. So I just decided, let me just go back home. Anyway, home is best. And I was always coming back. And I felt that there's a lot that I had already learned outside that I could actually come and put in and kind of add to what is already being done here. And I remember within a year of being here, there was an article in the Nation about the young Turk in investment banking, whereby I had been positioned as the one who's passed all the wazes.
May I ask, how old were you at this point? Because I'm assuming you graduated around 25, 26. Yeah.
So by then, by the time I was coming back here, I was about 27. And so by 28, I had been made the general manager, managing director within the investment bank, within the group. And
this was with NIC.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where now we started doing all these other transactions in the market, from your Britam IPO. I'm the one who did the first equity-linked note in Sub-Saharan Africa for the river mining, which was overly successful. Did the largest bond transaction of 10 billion shillings for housing finance. Back then, most transactions were 2-3 billion. We did a big one for Centum, all the different things that Centum was doing. So that's why now the financial market now started identifying all the investment banking transactions.
So here you are, in your late 20s. That's still a very young person, very youthful person. You are in this industry of senior, very mature, experienced people in that field, and you're trying to navigate your way and find your space.
Yes.
What were the challenges? Because I'm just trying to picture that you're back from London, you just got this position, and then suddenly it's almost as if you were thrown into the deep end.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge is also always how to relate with the older people, and how to make the market appreciate that even though I'm younger than them, they do have the value of experience, which I can't deny them. But at the same time, there is what I come in with, which is more of what the broader world order is doing.
Yeah.
So getting that balance where these people don't feel that I'm stepping on them, and that I'm respecting them and I'm respecting their views, and that but at the same time that I'm competing, because I'm still competing with them.
You're still competing with them. And at Citi Bank, is this where you met your James Macharia, Mr. James Macharia?
Yeah.
And you were working under him. He was your line manager?
Yes, he was the group managing director.
I assume it was also a recommendation from Mr. James Macharia when you were now making the transition from corporate into government to your position as the former permanent secretary at the Ministry of Tourism, of Transport.
Actually, no, the network, for me, I love creating those networks. I know that you are as strong as your networks. Of course, Mr. Macharia helped in terms of probably the positioning, but the person actually who took my CV to the president is actually another youth, Sakaja. It's actually Sakaja who called me and said he's had the president has mentioned my name. He'd want to get my CV, and Sakaja followed up with me.
And you knew Sakaja from your social circles, from your social circles.
Yes.
So okay, and I've read somewhere where you said that you actually applied for the role as the permanent secretary. You went for a couple of interviews, and prior to the announcement being made, you knew that you had already gotten that phone call that you had been shortlisted. Tell us about that journey. When you moved from this investment banking situation, and suddenly we are almost calling you Your Excellency.
Let's say that in short, in terms of, for me, I was always interested in public service. Actually, even all the way going back to when we were having the constitution, the comments, and when we were doing public participation on the constitution in 2009, 2008 towards 2010. I remember I was very active, knowing that I'd actually want eventually to be in public service.
Yeah.
And what I knew is that it was just about time, not about whether. So when I was called in and asked to submit my CV, and then eventually appointed for the role, I knew that it's a journey that I have started. It's a journey that I'm unlikely to go back on, and it really started off from, I was one of the school captains when I was in high school.
Which high school did you go to?
Starehe Boys.
Starehe.
Yeah. So, and our director then, Dr. Geoffrey Griffin, used to tell us that the ultimate sacrifice and service for a person is service to mankind and service to humanity, and that's really what he was doing. He was just serving, and that really was a very powerful statement and direction that he was pushing us towards, because he was really encouraging us that should you get an opportunity to serve, please take it, because if you don't, then there are people who are less capable and who are less poised to actually serve for the interest of the others that will take up those positions. And that's why, for me, I was always very passionate about leadership and passionate about service.
Okay.
And so even that transition, when I made that decision, because it was a very difficult decision to make. I was coming from earning over 2 million in salary and coming down to earn about 700,000. So it was a very...
Wait. You were earning 2 million at the age of... we're just trying to do some maths here. So that
over 2 million. I didn't say 2 million.
Over 2 million. Sorry, I'm sorry. Irungu Nyakera was earning over 2 million at the age of?
By around 31, yeah.
So you were coming down on a salary cut.
Yes.
That was the first thing.
Yes.
And then, of course, this was going to throw you into the public.
Exactly. Exactly, because I've had a very steady and consistent growth within the private sector.
Yeah.
And of course, I remember my former managing director of my former line manager, who was James Mwangi at Equity Bank, cautioned me. He told me, you're doing so well here at Equity, and we have a lot of plans and a big future for you. But he told me, when you get to become PS, it's very uncertain. You're getting in at a time when we are in the middle of a term, and it's very likely that at the end
do you regret? I mean, now that you've mentioned that he cautioned you and he told you, there are pros and there are cons, but the uncertainty around this kind of appointments, and I know we are going to talk about why you left, or eventually what became of that position. But do you regret having made that move from investment banking and into an appointed position in government?
No, not a single day, because I think I got experience in that short period of about 3.5 years. I got the experience that I would have needed about 20 years in the private sector to get. I got networks that I would probably have needed 20 years to get. And in terms of my political ambitions, they were fast-tracked to the point where I feel that I would be able to get into a
So it sort of groomed you.
It groomed me. And
there is a very controversial rumor that you got fired because there was a picture out there of you sitting with a personality that at the moment belonged to the wrong side of the political divide. And so your direct line manager, the president, saw the picture, and when you went into the reshuffle, it was like, okay, we are going to have to drop this guy because he's a traitor. Is that really what happened?
No. Actually, most of it was just from a performance point, was very highly ranked as a PS in performance. I actually started out as PS for planning at transport, where I was in charge of the SGR from the beginning to the end, and so into the value to the economy, and that discussion is totally it's open for anyone. But in terms of how the project was delivered and the timelines, the one who revived the LAPSET, for example, I worked on getting us the direct flights from to the US. We worked very, very hard to get Bwana Okia Umtata to allow the digital driving licenses to be project to proceed, because he was in court with it. You can talk to him, and there are a lot of things that I was doing.
It seems like you had good collaboration with the stakeholders.
I did,
and you kind of through the successes that you're mentioning, even just go from the SGR all the way to these stakeholders like the Matatu circles and associations. It seems like it was like a really tough challenge, but my understanding is that you had a good collaboration with these stakeholders. So then, were you fired for overworking?
There's someone who told me, actually, specifically it's CS Balala, who was very at some
CS
point.
Najib Balala told
Balala,
you. Yes.
There's a time when he came and told me, you cannot be a superstar in government, and because he told me, just be careful because people are seeing you a lot. I remember we were actually at the Kasarani Stadium. That's where we just bumped into each other. And later on, of course, I found out that's how government works. You see, when you raise your head, everyone gets to see you, and you are a threat to many people. There are some people who felt that I'm a threat to them in terms of if I'm only 34, and I'm doing so much, what happens in 6 years?
Or what happens even in 3 years when,
Even look at not even necessarily the immediacy. What happens in 10? I'll be a big threat, an issue to them. Maybe some of them were even looking at local county politics. What happens in Muranga County? Am I a threat to them? Should they be interested in a position? Will I be the one determining where the wave will go?
Will go. And then, speaking of politics and the direction you're going, I know that you're a businessman, and I know that you have a lot of other interests that you're doing outside of politics. But are you vying for any particular seat come 2022 in Muranga or Nairobi or anywhere?
See, For me, right now, as you said, I'm very much in business. My profession, my background is investment banking, it's investments, it's advisory. I'm still doing that, and I enjoy it a lot. I also have my foundation, Irungu Nyakera Foundation, which I've been working on for the last about 4 years, which again is something that gives me a lot of joy because then I'm able to give back to others, to the community. We have about 150 kids who are in high school, who we are fully educating. So that's why when the minister say they are going back to school next month, now I have to look for fees.
You have to look for school fees.
For 150 kids.
150 children.
So that they don't say that I educated them halfway. We're doing a lot of youth mentorship, mostly in schools, Form 3 and Form 4, on things like how careers, drugs, sexuality, sex education, drugs, they being street smart and all that, that actually these public school kids actually don't have that opportunity.
They don't get taught. They don't get taught how to survive once you get that appointment in government.
Not even in government. Once they finish Form 4, they don't really know where to go next. We are doing that also to their teachers and to the parents, where we get that opportunity to tell the parents, these kids don't all have to go to university. 84% of the jobs that are being created in this country on an annual basis are in the informal sector. So what do we do to ensure that our kids, after they finish Form 4, we are not pushing them go to university. No, take them to political.
And is this why, you know, speaking of your foundation and the mentorship that you're giving the youth from the different communities that you are in, is this also what sort of spurred you, what pushed you to start championing the rights of the tea farmers, of the coffee farmers in Muranga? Because we've seen a lot of your work in terms of making sure that the policies that were there that were against the farmer are, you know, changed. And maybe tell us a little about where did that come from?
Yeah, that's actually the other pillar within the foundation is on agriculture, because and my foundation operates in 5 counties, and they're all agrarian. And so within those counties, you find that the farmers are predominantly tea and coffee. So when you speak with the farmers and you feel that they're working so hard and yet there's really nothing coming to their pockets, you feel their pain. And the only thing that I could do once I felt their pain is to see how do we address this. How come nobody's addressing it? How come the elected?
Do you think nobody was addressing it?
Nobody was addressing it. Nobody was addressing it.
So you saw an opportunity to have an impactful change within those communities.
I saw an opportunity to actually add value to the community, add a voice to the voiceless who are being oppressed and enslaved by certain individuals or cartels. And you see, once you unlock one subsector, which is tea, then you'll find that even the other subsectors start changing. They follow. And I may not be the voice in the other subsectors, but I'll have helped create. You
would have triggered that motion.
Yes, triggered that conversation, the motion, and that's what we are seeing in the tea area.
I'm a very big fan of that, by the way. I follow all your pages, all your rants. I follow even when you've taken those videos of the cartels and you come and tell us this is what's happening. There's a private meeting. They're trying to bribe so and so. You know, I'm kind of like, okay, what next? And I'm sure I'm not the only Kenyan, because we know that the agricultural sector really needs a lot of reforms. It's not only in the tea sector. So it's really nice to have a youthful leader picking up that mantle. You know, in this show we really try to motivate maybe aspiring leaders that are out there. So maybe what would be the advice that you would give an individual, either from your community or anywhere, that wants to go from the corporate world, because that's where you came from, and into, let's say, public service on whatever level? And what would you say that you wish you knew way before that might have helped you?
I think one thing, if I knew, would have helped me, is that there's no superstar in government. I wish I knew faster.
But do you think that's a good thing, that you're actually encouraged not to overwork?
It doesn't have to be a good thing, but those are the facts.
Those are the facts.
Yeah. In terms of the people in the private sector,
Yes.
The private sector is one of those that you say that you in Swahili we say tenda wema nenda zako. You don't expect a lot of appreciation and gratitude, even from the very people you're serving.
That you're serving.
So it has to be one has to have a very strong just service mentality, and just doing good for the sake of good. But we need those people from the private sector.
If in one moment in time you became the governor of Muranga County, I'm just speaking hypothetical. I know you have said that right now you're doing business, but I mean, I see potential when I see potential. So if you became the governor of Muranga County, do you think you would carry the lessons that you got from national government to the county government in terms of don't overwork, in terms of the politics that you experience? Or do you think that that would be an opportunity for you to maybe create a sort of new age governance system?
You see, it all boils down to the appointing authority. Yeah. If the appointing authority is the people, then you serve them. Yeah. And all those things that I was told don't apply.
They don't apply.
Because there's no one who will fire me.
Yeah.
The only person who can fire me is the people, and they'll fire me if they don't serve them. Yeah. And that's why even in the dispensation, the coming years, so you had mentioned, should I be interested in service? I'll be interested in service that is given, a mantle that's given to me by the people. And then
because you're better placed to serve the people.
Without fear, without worrying about some political issues or whatever. Yeah. If I feel that it is the right thing to build a dam here, we will build a dam here. If I feel it is the right thing to champion for coffee farmers in this way, we'll champion for them in this way. Without fear that someone will come and tell me they will fire me. Yeah, because that won't be the case. It's only the people who will be able to come and take me away from that position. And that's what, for me, I keep saying, if someone wants to really serve, actually try it.
Try it on elective.
Try it on elective.
Yeah.
Because then you'll actually have the real mantle from the people.
Yeah.
To serve them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see that even in the appointments that you have with the Political Parties Association, within your party as the deputy party leader of the Democratic Party. All of those are elected positions, and you seem to be thriving in them because it's somewhat serving the people and not returning back to an appointing authority who might not have,
Yeah, I've stopped looking for appointments. I was recently appointed on the committee of the National Steering Committee on Tea. Which some crooks went to court and stopped our committee from operating. But so some of those, I think that one I'm okay with, because then I'll be able to even serve the interest of the tea farmers nationally, not just in the county.
Not just in the county,
Yeah, but my best, my hope is that in future I'll also be elected by the people.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you.
And we hope to see you as the governor of Muranga County come 2022.
Assuming I run for that.
Assuming you run for it. Asante sana.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was the former PS of Ministry of Transport, Mr. Irungu Nyakera, and his lesson for us, the youth, right now is, it's better to serve the people, because if you get elected and the people want you to serve them, it's easier for you to serve without fear, without favor, without thinking about an appointing authority. So perhaps for the youth who are interested in getting into leadership positions, perhaps it's time for you to rethink on appointments and actually go towards the direction of getting elected. Follow us on our social media channels, on our YouTube channels. They will be on the screen, and let's meet again next week.